This is the latest disclosure in a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
Hey guys, it's Brent from Planet Doom. Hey, I had a few people ask me if I could produce a step-by-step tutorial on how to build the pneumatic zombie breakout cage from last year's haunted house. So here we go. This is a pneumatic prop and it requires an air compressor. If you've never built a pneumatic prop before, not to worry. This one is as easy as they get, so it's the perfect prop for a first-time pneumatic prop builder. The supplies I'm going to reference in just a moment are available from multiple vendors. I personally got mine from frightprops.com. I like those guys a lot. They'll take good care of you.
Incredible as they seem, are not the results of mass hysteria. First eyewitness accounts of this grisly development came from people who were understandably frightened and almost incoherent. Officials and newsmen at first discounted those eyewitness descriptions as being beyond belief. However, the reports persisted. Medical examinations of some of the victims bore out the fact that they had been partially devoured.
All right, so step one is to adhere your chain link fence panel to the cage. And intuitively, you might think you just need to do some type of swivel at the bottom. But you actually don't even want it to be that smooth. I just used this bad boy here that came with the actual dog run assembly. And it actually gives you a lot of pushback, which is good because you want it to look like these zombies are really yanking on this cage. So once you've done that, the next step is to take your pneumatic cylinder, install your fittings, your push fittings for your airline tubing, and mount it on the actual cage. And then you've got this rod end here that you should be getting with your pneumatic cylinder, and you want to adhere that to the portion of the panel that needs to move. And so as you can see, once the air pressure gets hooked up and you got the compressor running, you've got enough power now to push this fence inside and out. Okay, here is one of our zombies. These are actually really easy and pretty fun to build. This guy is just made out of 1-inch PVC. You can see his spine there. And then I've got some chicken wire to help build out his chest. And then 1-inch PVC for the arms. One thing you want to do on these PVC arms is make sure they're articulated very loosely. All I did was use a zip tie. Drilled a hole in the PVC, used a zip tie. Hands you can get just about anywhere. I recommend terrorsyndicate.com. Those guys are really good and really inexpensive. I got this hand from those guys and just painted it myself and put some perma blood on there. And then that's just a prop head from Closed Casket Studios. But one thing that's important on these guys is to keep the arms articulated very loosely. And you also want the feet to be able to pivot. Now I stick these guys inside of some shoes, but it's very important that the bottom of the legs are actually able to pivot inside the shoes. I'll show you why in a moment. Alright, so here he is with his grip on the fence. You could use a small zip tie and secure his fingers on the fence just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. But one thing that's really important on these guys is to mount them with some lean in their stride. You want them leaning back. So push their feet forward and have their upper body leaning back, and then that way when the chain link starts moving, it really looks like they're starting to yank on this and it's exaggerated. So even though this piston is only moving 4 inches, you actually get like a good 9, 10, 12 inches out of this guy. So just something to keep in mind. Alright, so the next step is to hook up your pneumatic solenoid and connect it not only to your prop controller, and in this case I'm using the Peekaboo 104, but also to connect it via the 1/4-inch airline tubing to the actual pneumatic cylinder. on the zombie fence. And so once you have that pneumatic solenoid hooked up to your prop controller, you can program your controller, and there's directions on how to do so on the Fright Props website. And you can just program the controller to do any types of movements you like, and also plug in some audio. And once you do that, the controller will tell the solenoid when to fire that pneumatic cylinder. It's really pretty simple. And how does your controller know when to trigger the solenoid? Well, that's with one of these. This is a passive infrared trigger. It's the same thing you see on motion sensor lights. And this one I have partially covered up because I wanted to narrow the range of focus and the range of motion for people setting it off. But you know, last year I had this one hung up in the tree right here, so as soon as anybody walked by towards the cage, it started shaking and going off. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. All the instructions on how to program and wire the controller are on the Fright Props website. If you purchase the controller and the passive infrared trigger, you'll get directions with that as well. So let's go ahead and fire it up and see it in action. Hope you dig it.